transition and get to the NBA Eastern Conference semifinals. It was a battle between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics. It was a battle for the first 6 games, but yesterday at TD Garden, not so much. The Celtics beat the Sixers 112-88. Celtics win the series 4-3. Jason Tatum was sensational. He had 51 points, 13 rebounds, shot 7 of 28 from the floor, shot 6 of 10 from three-point range. Jaylen Brown had 25 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists for the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid had a game to forget, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, and James Harden was a complete no-show, 9 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. So the Celtics, they advanced to their 3rd consecutive conference finals in 4 years. So last 4 years, the Celtics has been in the conference finals 3 times. So I watched this game from the opening tip yesterday at TD Garden, and I thought Jason Tatum put on a sensational performance in Game 7. And I felt like watching the game, the Boston Celtics, they needed their elite star in Jason Tatum to show up in a big moment for their basketball team. And I thought Jason Tatum put together a performance that resembled his performance last year that he put together in the same exact round. Last year it came against the Milwaukee Bucks. It was Game 6. It was at FedEx Forum. The Bucks had beat the Celtics in Game 5 at TD Garden. So the Celtics were facing elimination. They were facing elimination, and Jason Tatum dropped 46 points on the Bucks last year in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, pushed that series to 7 games. Celtics beat the Bucks at home in Game 7. Grant Williams had a great performance in Game 7. I think he hit like 7 threes. This performance yesterday against the Sixers, Jason Tatum resembled that same performance that he had last year against the Bucks, dropping 51 points. It's the most points in Game 7 in NBA history. Sam Jones dropped 47 in 1963. Dominique Wilkins dropped 47 in 1988. KD dropped 48 in the 2021 NBA playoffs. And just 2 weeks ago, Steph Curry dropped 50 points against the Sacramento Kings, and Jason Tatum put together a 51-point performance, and he had it going, especially in that third quarter. That was when the Celtics pulled away from the Sixers. The Celtics outscored the Sixers 33-10 in that third quarter, and Jason Tatum was cooking. He was hitting the pullback three-point jumper. He was able to get to the rim and finish at the cup. He was hitting his free throw shots as well. And you could see he had the confidence. I love the confidence that he had. And I felt like this happened because of his turnaround in Game 6. Game 6, through the first 3 quarters, Tatum had arguably the worst game of his career. And then in the fourth quarter, he completely turned it around. This is Tatum in Game 6. He started the game with 7 points, shot 1 of 14 from the floor. That's 7%. 0 of 6 from three-point range. In the final 4 minutes of Game 6 in Philadelphia, Tatum had 12 points, shot 4 of 7 from the floor, 57%, 4 of 5 from three-point range. And then the first shot that he hit was the three-pointer over Joel Embiid in Game 6. And then he hit another three-pointer over Tyrese Maxey. And I thought, okay, he got it going now. Now he got it going. Because the first three-pointer that he hit, it put the Celtics up 1. And then the second three that he hit over Maxey put the Celtics up 4. And then he had it going. And I thought his performance in the fourth quarter of Game 6 carried over to Game 7, and he was outstanding. And I thought that He led the Boston Celtics and pretty much took over the game. And Joel Embiid and James Harden did not have an answer for Jason Tatum in this game. And in game sevens, you can have all the great coaching that you want. You can have great performances from your role players. In game sevens, you need your stars to play like superstars in big moments in game sevens. And I thought Jason Tatum did just that. Because at halftime, the Celtics were winning the game 55-52. So they only had a 3-point lead. And the Sixers got the ball to open the third quarter. Tobias Harris hits a 3-point shot. So the game is tied at 55. And Jason Tatum from there went crazy. He had a tremendous third quarter, and he pretty much outscored the Sixers by himself in that third quarter. It was a sensational performance, and we got to give him credit for that. Jason Tatum now in game sevens, he's 5-1. 5-1 for Jason Tatum in career game sevens. His only loss came against LeBron, and that was in the 2017 NBA playoffs, I believe. That was the year when Kevin Durant was with the Golden State Warriors and LeBron led that Cleveland Cavaliers team that didn't have Kyrie Irving to the NBA Finals. That might have been 2018. But that was the 1 year when Tatum lost a game 7. He's 5-1 in game 7. So this narrative out there about how Jason Tatum doesn't play well in big games, I think Jason Tatum put that narrative to bed with this performance. And he said after game 6 in the post-game press conference, he said, humbly, I am one of the best basketball players in the world. And he proved himself to be right with his game 7 performance. So Jason Tatum was sensational. I thought Jaylen Brown did a great job with his 25 points. And Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are again in the conference finals for the third time in the last 4 years. I believe that they are the winningest duo in the NBA currently. And there was a question earlier I saw, I can't remember exactly where it was from, but it was talking about the current NBA duos that's left. Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler for the Heat, LeBron James, Anthony Davis for the Lakers, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic for the Nuggets, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for the Celtics. Who are you taking? And I am riding with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I believe that the Boston Celtics organization have done a tremendous job building around Tatum and Brown. I'm going to preview the NBA conference finals for the East here in a bit, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they have been the best duo in the NBA, I would say, for the last 3 years. For the last 3 years, they have been the best duo in the NBA. Since they lost in the bubble, they've had conference championship appearances. They got to the NBA finals last year. So I know that LeBron and AD is more accomplished than Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but Anthony Davis is inconsistent. Jamal Murray is fresh off his injury that he suffered a few years ago, so we still got to see if he can get back to playing at a high level consistently. And Bam Adebayo, I like Bam, I like Jimmy, but sometimes Bam offensively he can come and go. Sometimes he's great defensively, but offensively he can come and go. So I would take Jaylen Brown and Tatum as the best remaining duo in the NBA. Now, when I look at the Philadelphia 76ers, as great as Jason Tatum played yesterday, we got to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and their shortcomings not reaching a conference finals again. The 76ers have not been to the conference finals since 2001. That was when Allen Iverson got them to the NBA finals. And so it's plenty of blame to go around when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers. But it's 3 people that I want to specifically talk about: James Harden, Joel Embiid, and Doc Rivers. Let's start off with Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid is the best player on the Philadelphia 76ers, and he is the NBA MVP. In this game, Joel Embiid was pathetic. Embiid had 15 points, shot 5 of 18 from the floor, He only had 2 points in the second half on 1 of 6 shooting. So when you are in the NBA playoffs and you see the opposing team's star going off the way that Jason Tatum was going off yesterday, you need your MVP and your best player on your team to say, no, I have to keep us in this game and battle and go shot for shot with Tatum. And Joel Embiid simply did not do that. And honestly, this goes back even to game 6. In game 6, I thought in the fourth quarter, the Sixers had the Celtics in a position to where the Celtics, honestly, season was on the brink. And the Sixers had the basketball, leading by 2 on 3 different occasions in the fourth quarter, and they did not deliver the knockout punch. And that is on Joel Embiid. You are the NBA MVP. You are by far the best player on this Sixers team. And down the stretch in game 6, Joel Embiid doesn't touch the basketball that much. Like in game 6, down the stretch in the last 5 minutes, Joel Embiid did not touch the basketball. And if you are a star of Embiid's caliber, you have to demand the basketball. You got to demand the basketball. You got Al Horford guarding you. There's no reason why you, A, should not be demanding the basketball. And B, in game 7, I saw this a lot. Why is Joel Embiid settling for jump shots? He shot 1 of 12 on perimeter shots in game 7. So the perimeter shots is either obviously a mid-range or a 3-point shot. Why is Joel Embiid shooting jump shots? And Joel Embiid is the tallest player on the floor. And he's the NBA MVP. You got Al Horford guarding you, Joel. Al Horford. Al Horford's best days are behind him. He's a spot-up 3-point shooter now and a great veteran presence for the Boston Celtics in their locker room. But Al Horford can't guard Joel Embiid. He can't guard Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid in the fourth quarter of game 6 and the entire game of game 7 allowed Al Horford to slow him down. And Joel Embiid couldn't get into a rhythm and could not answer the barrage and the performance from Tatum on the opposite side. So Joel Embiid, he failed with this loss in game 7 to the Celtics. Joel Embiid failed to 0-5 in conference semifinal series. He's never been to a conference finals. Joel Embiid is now 0-3 in game 7s. He's never won a game 7. He lost in game 7 to Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors, the year when the Raptors won their championship against the Warriors. He lost to Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks in game 7 a few years ago. And he lost yesterday to the Celtics. So he's 0-3 in his career in game 7s. So Joel Embiid deserves some blame for the Philadelphia 76ers not being able to close out the Boston Celtics in game 6 or game 7. You are the NBA MVP. And I said that Joel Embiid deserved to be the NBA MVP. And I've argued with plenty of Nuggets fans and people who believe that the Joker is better than Embiid. Today is not a day for me to make the argument that Embiid is better than the Joker. It ain't the day for it. It ain't the day for it. Because Joker balled out in the Western Conference semifinals against the Suns. He closed out Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in that series. And Embiid got sent home. And then there's actually reports out there about how down the stretch of the season, Nikola Jokic pretty much just said, forget the MVP. He had the mindset that, hey, Embiid can have it. I've won it 2 straight years. And Nikola Jokic did not prioritize winning the NBA MVP award. And Embiid wanted to win the NBA MVP. He wanted it. And coincidentally, Embiid is on his way to Cancun, and the Joker is on his way to the Western Conference semifinals. And when it comes to the NBA MVP, this is the fourth straight year where the NBA MVP failed to reach the conference finals. That's the longest streak in NBA history. So that's what I blame Joel Embiid for. Let me get to James Harden. James Harden was pathetic in Game 6 and Game 7. In this series against the Boston Celtics, James Harden, he went 5 games in this 7-game series with only 4 made field goals or less. And in his career for Game 7s, this is James Harden. He's averaged 21 points per game on 36% shooting from the floor, 22% from three-point range, which is the worst three-point percentage in Game 7s in NBA playoff history. That's on a minimum of 25 shot attempts. Let me give you more numbers for how pathetic James Harden was in the fourth quarter of this series. James Harden in the fourth quarter in games 5 through 7. Game 5, 0 points, 0 of 1 from the floor, -4. That was his plus-minus rating, -4. Game 6, 0 points, 0 of 4 from the floor, plus-minus -13. Game 7, 0 points, 0 for 1 shooting from the floor, -4 rating. That's the worst plus-minus among all starters in each game. Yes, James Harden was sensational for the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 1 and Game 4. He won them Game 1 and Game 4. In Game 4, he had 42 points. I know he had over 40 points in Game 1 as well. That was the game when Joel Embiid didn't even play. And statistically, you look at James Harden in this series and the wins for the Sixers, James Harden's averaged 35 points per game on 61% shooting from the floor, 56% shooting from 3. In the Sixers' losses in this series, 13 points per game, 22% shooting from the floor, 13% shooting overall. But it's on brand. Why is everyone acting so surprised about James Harden not showing up when it matters the most? We've seen this movie before with James Harden. There are some players in NBA history who are NBA all-time greats who thrive in big moments. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant. I've seen Kevin Durant do it. There's some certain players who have what it takes and some players who don't have what it takes. And I believe James Harden has always been the type of player who doesn't have what it takes when you need him the most. We saw this in Houston. I remember the year in Houston where the San Antonio Spurs were going up against the Houston Rockets. Game 6 in Harden's house in Houston. No Kawhi Leonard in this game. And James Harden and the Houston Rockets got blew out by 40 in Game 6. It was a closeout game for the Spurs. They blew the Rockets out by 40. In that game, Harden shot like 2 of 12 from the floor. Had I think 8 points. He was pathetic in that game. And he put together a similar performance in Game 6 and Game 7 of this series. Sixers fans shouldn't be surprised. This is who Harden is. James Harden is no longer the elite scorer that he once was in Houston. James Harden is washed. And he's a role player at best. There's reports out a couple weeks ago about how the James Harden and his camp may be seeking to get $50 million per year from the Sixers moving forward. Daryl Morey is the general manager for the Sixers. He was also the general manager with Harden in Houston. So Harden and Daryl Morey have a great relationship. Daryl Morey would be a fool to give James Harden $50 million per year moving forward. He would be a fool. And he should be drug tested if he even thinks about giving James Harden $50 million per year moving forward. Because James Harden is no longer a star in the NBA. I'm going to just name some stars. And I'm not even going to talk about superstars. I'm going to just name some stars. Jaylen Brown, De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell. These are players who I believe are stars, not superstars, but are stars who I would take right now over James Harden. That's how bad James Harden is now. And we got to stop thinking this is still the Houston Rockets James Harden. That James Harden is gone. Him as a player is dead and gone from the Houston Rockets James Harden. He's no longer that guy no more. And I said late in the season that the Philadelphia 76ers second best player was not James Harden, it's Tyrese Maxey. And so watching this series, as a Tatum fan and as a Jaylen Brown fan, I root for the Celtics. Tyrese Maxey, I had more fear in him than James Harden. I was loving the fact that the Sixers kept running the offense through James Harden. I loved it. If you were a Celtics fan watching the game, Tyrese Maxey had to scare you more than James Harden did. So James Harden is on brand as usual to not perform well in big games. If I'm Daryl Morey, if I'm the Sixers organization, I am allowing James Harden to walk in free agency. He can walk all, he can leave. Go to Houston if you want to go to Houston, James. I am allowing him to walk. And I'm going to try to get my hands on Damian Lillard. And if I got to give up Tyrese Maxey to get Dame and pair up Dame time with Joel Embiid, then I got to send Maxey to the Trailblazers. But I am moving on from James Harden if I am the Philadelphia 76ers because James Harden is no longer a first or second option on a championship contender. Now, the other person who deserves blame is Doc Rivers. But I'm not going to blame Doc Rivers as much as the media, that's not Wise Guy Sports, of course, is blaming Doc. I believe that you need your stars to play well in game sevens. And I thought James Harden and Joel Embiid, they quit on Doc yesterday. They quit on Doc. And Doc Rivers, we know his struggles in the playoffs. Doc Rivers is 6-10 in game sevens. So he's lost 10 total games in game sevens. That's twice as many as any other coach in NBA history. Pat Riley has 5 game 7 losses. So Doc Rivers has 10. And I know that Doc is an easy target. It could be a scapegoat for the Sixers not reaching their goals this year. But I'm not going to blame Doc Rivers for James Harden's pathetic performance in games 5 through 7 in the fourth quarter. I'm not going to blame Doc for Joel Embiid not demanding the basketball in a crucial fourth quarter of a closeout, game 6. I'm not going to blame Doc Rivers for Joel Embiid only scoring 15 points in a winner go-home game 7. I'm not blaming Doc for that. Now, this is what I will blame Doc for. Because Doc deserves some blame because he didn't make the necessary adjustments. And that is a part of coaching. You got coaches like Ty Lue, Darwin Ham, Steve Kerr. They make adjustments throughout playoff series, and it helps their team win series. It happened in this series. Joe Mazzulla, I've been critical of Joe Mazzulla during this playoff run. But the one adjustment that Joe Mazzulla made in this series, and I believe it was a difference, was he inserted Robert Williams into the starting lineup in game 6. That lineup with Smart, Brown, Tatum, Horford, and Williams, that was the starting lineup and the starting 5 that got the Celtics to the NBA Finals last year. So I give Joe Mazzulla a lot of credit because he wanted to go small in the first 5 games of this series, but he realized but I have to substitute some offense for some defense. So he brought in Robert Williams off the bench, and I thought that was a tremendous, tremendous adjustment, and that helped the Celtics win this series. But Doc Rivers really never made any adjustments. As the head coach in game 6 in the last 5 minutes, if you see on consecutive or 3 or 4 possessions where Joel Embiid is not touching the basketball, as a head coach, timeout, timeout. And you sit your team down and you tell your team, get 21 to basketball. Joel Embiid needs to touch the basketball on every single possession. And Doc Rivers didn't do that. He didn't do that in game 6. So that's where I blame Doc Rivers for the Sixers losing this series. They need to move on from Doc Rivers first. John shrugged, say, John, I disagree. I'm not saying that Doc Rivers is as good of a coach as Ty Lue is, or Steve Kerr is, or Eric Spoelstra. But to me, the blame for the Sixers losing this series, John, is on James Harden and Joel Embiid. Doc Rivers would be the scapegoat. I'm not saying that Doc Rivers is the best coach in the NBA. And yes, I believe that Doc Rivers should have made some adjustments. And I think Doc Rivers should have gotten the ball more to Tyrese Maxey than James Harden. Now, again, as a person that's rooting for the Celtics, I was happy that Doc Rivers kept giving the ball to James Harden. Like I said, I feared Tyrese Maxey more than I feared James Harden in this series. So I think that Doc Rivers made 2 mistakes. One, he didn't call no timeout in the final 5 minutes of game 6 and demand that his team get Joel Embiid the basketball and demand his MVP center to demand the basketball. And number 2, he made a mistake not having the offense run through Maxey more than Harden. I think Maxey is a better player at this moment than Harden is. Tyrese Maxey is the second best player on the Philadelphia 76ers basketball team. It is not James Harden. And for whatever reason, Doc continued to run the offense through Harden. So that was a mistake as well. Other than that, I put majority of the blame for the reason why the Sixers lost this series on Joel Embiid and James Harden simply not being good enough. And I don't think the Sixers are good enough as a team. I said this coming into the series. I said the Celtics are by far the better team. Now, the Sixers made this an interesting series, but the Celtics are by far a more superior team than the Sixers are. They're not good enough. Question about coaches. You think Monty Williams gets the Raptors job? Nurse go to Suns or Bucks? Heard Isaiah Thomas might become Detroit Pistons' next head coach. I might talk about that a little bit later on, John, about the head coaches and where they may go, for sure. But yeah, I feel like you gotta. If I'm the Sixers organization, I may bring back Doc for one more season and try to go out and trade for Damian Lillard. That's what the Sixers need to do moving forward. This experiment with James Harden and Joel Embiid, it's not going to get you to the conference finals and help you reach your ultimate goal. It's not. Trade for Dame and pair up Dame time with Joel Embiid and see what happens from there.